Okay, so welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at Act 2, Scene 1 in Shakespeare's Macbeth. So the last video we recorded finished with the scene in which Macbeth and Lady Macbeth have a very famous discourse back and forth, and to put it very simply, Lady Macbeth easily outmaneuvers Macbeth and manipulates him fairly seamlessly, and he doubles down on this plan to assassinate Duncan. So that's the end of Act 1, and now we're just beginning Act 2, and the first thing that we have is an interchange between Banquo and Macbeth. So Macbeth leaves Lady Macbeth and goes out into the castle and encounters Banquo. So I'll just read through this extract and we'll do a little bit of analysis on this, and then we'll move on to a very famous soliloquy that Macbeth goes on to give not too long after in this scene. So Banquo begins, "All's well, I dreamt last night of 3 weird sisters. To you they have showed some truth." Macbeth responds, "I think not of them. Yet when we can entreat an hour to serve, we would spend it in some words upon that business, if you would grant me the time." Banquo's response, "At your kindest leisure." Macbeth, "If you shall cleave to my consent, when 'tis I shall make honour for you." Banquo, "So I lose none in seeking to augment it, but still keep my bosom franchise and allegiance clear, I shall be counselled." Macbeth, "Good repose the while. Thanks, sir, the like to you." And Banquo leaves. So let's just break down this section of the scene a little bit. Here we have the beginning of the scene. Banquo basically just saying to Macbeth that, raising this topic. Look, I've been thinking about the witches. He said he dreamt of them, and he says, look, some of their prediction has come true. I mean, what do you think about this? In your case, you were made the Thane of Cawdor. Pretty amazing. And the implication potentially being, what's next is the next logical step is for you to become king. And he doesn't say anything, but that's the direction that the conversation may be pointing to. And Macbeth's response, in a sense, preempts that idea and dismisses it. "I think not of them." And he basically says next, look, at some point we need to have a quick chat. So he addresses Banquo's concern to some extent. Just saying, look, we need to talk about this at some point, but I haven't really thought about it. And Banquo responds, sure. And then Macbeth says, "If you shall cleave to my consent when 'tis, I shall make an honour for you." So he says something a little bit veiled and a little bit ambiguous here, like, if you stick with me when the time comes, I will make an honour for you. What's he referring to there? It's ambiguous, and it's, I would argue, deliberately ambiguous on the part of Macbeth. And Banquo says, sure, there's no problem for me to try to augment it, increase my honour, but I keep my bosom franchise and allegiance clear. But my allegiance is very clear, So he's also being a little bit ambiguous, but he's kind of saying, my allegiance is to the king, to King Duncan. So I feel like this little interchange here, sometimes we don't read enough into this, but I think this is basically a very cagey discussion. I don't know if you've ever seen people like in some kind of a very cagey business discussion. It can be quite interesting when, you know, people go near a very important topic and they almost don't want to address it really head on because it's so big and so important, but they kind of skirt around it a little bit and try to find the other's position. And this is exactly what's happening here. They're kind of looking to find where the other one's thought process is and what they're thinking. And Macbeth semi-offers some kind of an ambiguous, you know, stick with me and like I'm going to take you to the top kind of thing. And Banquo responds with, you know, yes, you know, I want to increase my honor, but my allegiance is very clear. And they leave it there. And Macbeth says, you know, go rest. Thanks, sir, the like to you. So this is an interesting interchange between Macbeth and Banquo. Before they were, you know, two really kind of brothers in arms. They were very, very close. They've been in war together. They've been in battle together, had each other's backs and so on. And they'd obviously have this encounter with the witches. So there was no secrets between them, really. They were close allies and really looked out for each other. And we can see here that the level of conversation they have is not as direct and it's not as clear. So their relationship has changed quite a bit, and they're almost going their separate ways, in fact, here in a very subtle way. So that's how the scene is introduced. I think that's interesting just in terms of the development of the relationship between Macbeth and Banquo. We see the relationship, it's not strained, but it's not honest. It's a little bit cagey at this point. So ambition and the kind of world has come between their friendship. So in the next video, I'm going to look at the next part of this scene, the very famous is this a dagger I see before me? So we'll leave that there for now. I'm going to come back and take a look at the next part of this scene, a very important part in the play, one of the most famous parts in all of Shakespeare.